Okay. I'll start by reading the hearing notice. The first agenda item is in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11. Notice is hereby given that the Bolton Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Monday, October 16, 2016 at 7 p.m. The Board of Selectmen in Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass. To hear and act upon the application of Leslie Wagersbach, 91 Burnham Road, Bolton, Mass. The applicant is seeking a variance for a proposed ground-mounted solar system located in Bolton's residential zoning district at 91 Burnham Road, identified on Assessors Map 4D, Parcel 58. The applicant is seeking a variance for side yard setback pursuant to Section 253-13A of the Code of Town of Bolton. So, Les, you want to come present your present?
No, it's not my job.
Oh, whose job is it?
It's mine.
Oh, yours. Oh, okay. So who's presenting for us?
Where would you like to sit up there? Is that?
We already
Thank you. My name is Jeff Constantine. I'm the VP of Operations for Solar Flare Energy. We're doing the Solarized Bolton program, and this project is part of that program. So we've done many installations in town. This one here, we're proposing on the ground in the rear of the property. And the issue is that we're within the 20-foot side setback. Our proposed design is at 15 feet. The reason for that is just the way the tree lines sit back there. It's about a 28 by 33 footprint it would take up, as you can see on the drawing. And basically, it's just a couple of blocks that we put on the ground, and we attach modules to them, very similar to this. And I mean, that's really all we're asking.
So optic, so between the 20 foot, here's the 15 foot, is that you're saying?
Yes,
So it
exactly.
can't be moved over?
If it moves over, there are trees there, and so we don't want to have to cut down trees to do that.
So,
So right now, that blue square is what we're proposing. So if we were to take this square and move it further away, it gets into the tree lines that are right here. And then this being north, this being south, the sun hitting as well, it's gonna, when we move it over, when the sun gets to here, the shading is gonna cause more problem. So we moved it over as much as we could for that. And it's very much, and you can see it's very much to the rear of the property.
and whose property line does it abut? So within 50?
This one here, I don't honestly know the lady's name, but she has walked the site with our owner, and,
Dorothy Paquette, Kevin started,
yeah.
and Kevin started
Oh,
our property.
okay. And do you have any concerns with it being within 5?
Absolutely.
Yes, we do.
So let's continue talking about the area. So but for the tree line, that's the, is it, what type of work would it be to move it, or to trim trees, or how is it? Do you have to remove significant trees?
Yeah, well, we would have to remove enough of them to make a difference. And we just, we'd rather not, obviously, remove nature to install it if we don't have to.
What is the nature of your hardship? Is that the tree line would have to be?
Yeah, and we couldn't place it on the house, so we wanted to put it in the yard, and this is the only area in the yard because it is covered with all trees. Here, that's not his, the property line is right here.
I guess it's
we've got here.
This is the property line.
Yeah, there it is, yeah. So I was just trying to sink it in here.
They need another 5 feet, is that it?
Yeah.
I don't see how this is a consideration if we object. How is it even a consideration?
Well, first let us do our own review.
No, I get it.
And then we'll open it to public comment, so, all right, so. And then when we do open the public comment, you have to identify yourself by name and address, and then make your
Absolutely.
comment, okay? Thank you. So the tree line issue within the property, that's not necessarily unique to that property, within that, the properties that are in that area. So typically in hardship, variance request, so the circumstances has to come back to the soil condition and the shape or the topography of the land and structure is unique to that particular parcel. So, but not generally affecting the zoning district.
Right, so you can see that there's tree and brush there. We've got it staked out, and if we move it any further back, we're removing actual brush and tree and affecting the landscape in there. This being the property
You
line.
forget that, how much we have to, it doesn't look like a big tree, but a short trees, right?
Well, it's 5 feet from the line, so we need more than that to push it to work on. So we need closer to 10 feet to push it in, to clear the area around it as well.
I don't see any significant trees there in this area.
Brush.
It's mostly brush, so I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If there were no encroachment on that 20 feet, then there would be no question as to whether or not it could be constructed, is that correct?
I'm saying if it, right.
From a zoning perspective, yeah.
Yes.
The reason I raised the question was because the reason it's staked out there was because when I spoke with the abutters, they were adamant about not removing any of the brush, and were also adamant about removing any more trees. The first tree on that tree line was actually removed. It was a 125-foot pine that was about 3.5, maybe 5 feet across at the base. And so that tree was removed. The other ones are slightly smaller than that, but they are all roughly 100 feet tall. The motivation for this particular activity is not economic. There's virtually no economic benefit over the 20-year period that I probably will live in that residence, since I'm already of somewhat not junior age. So the whole purpose was to take advantage and or contribute to the solarization of Bolton in that particular exercise. So I'm a little bit baffled, because I can easily remove all of that brush that they're talking about and move it another 5 feet and install it. So I'm a little curious as to why there's a difficulty at this point in time.
Well, there's no difficulty on our part. I mean, with regard to zoning, we have to,
I understand.
if there's land that can be used to have it zoned within compliance of the zoning. then,
Understand.
So if there was, say there was a significant ledge outcropping or something that you say, well, that's unique there and it's gonna, you can't walk around ledge, well, then that may give a reason to say, maybe there's a cause for.
No, I completely understand. What I'm saying is that we're here requesting the variance on behest of my neighbors. It was not necessary for me to request that, except that they asked me not to encroach upon the wildlife refuge that was involved in that brush area, et cetera. So we did everything we could to accommodate them. They are the only abutters who have any line of sight to the installation.
So that vegetation's on your property?
Absolutely.
And there's nothing on.
And all the pine trees that are in the line are on my property. And they are all physically removable. But it seems rather contrary, as my associate indicates, it seems rather contrary for me to remove that much oxygen generating foliage in order for me to get a zero economic benefit, when the whole idea was to try to improve the overall ecological environment. So I'm perfectly willing to remove my request and then completely flatten that entire area and put the unit up if that's the alternative that exists.
It's kind of, the situation has kind of changed since we've come into the room.
I know it's changed, but I didn't change it.
No, I'm not, I agree. That we were presenting this because Les had talked to, it was our understanding that this location was agreed upon with the abutter and not remove trees and stuff like that. So that's why we're here asking for that variance.
I have to.
It's not in an effort to waste your time, believe me.
All right, so,
No, I mean, I think the issue that we have is that even if the abutters agree to it, we still have a hard point of issuing a variance under the guidelines of what we can issue variances for.
Right.
I mean, there really isn't a reason to do it if you can get around it by cutting a few
Because the owner
trees.
just said that he can.
Well, he could cut down 120-foot trees, yes.
Well, I realize that, but that's kind of, where we are. I mean, we might all think it's a great idea, but it doesn't mean we can approve it anyways.
right, so. And here it's hard to see, how far back you have to cut, because it looks like most of the frontage of that 5 feet is lower, to me, lower shrubs versus, high trees, but.
Well, it also has front effect as well when we slide it.
Where is there any kind of a compass on this?
So these trees here would become in the way as well. Because if we were to move it over, the closer we get to those, the more they affect it. So it's not just here, it would be there. North would be.
Southern exposure is this.
So this is the south side?
Yes.
So by removing those trees, wouldn't it in fact be more efficient?
Oh, sure. I mean, obviously, by clearing them.
It's approximately $1,000 a tree.
But with the variance, nothing would need to be cut down.
With the variance, it was, yes, the whole ecological system remains the same in the area.
And then you get full sun, no matter what,
We get enough
except on
sun.
a cloudy day.
Right, exactly.
So, any other questions, board, and I'll open it up to them, because I know we have some comments from the audience. Okay, so, questions from abutters or council, okay?
I'm Kevin Stoddard. I've lived there since '98. I was never approached about this topic. That offends me. Secondly, I think you have to see, if you're standing there, that picture, that's me in my backyard. So this solar field is in essence, sadly, although it's on his property, is in our backyard. So anything I can do to push it further away, absolutely. And I'm sorry to cut down trees, but that's just a hypocritical part of this whole topic anyway, to cut down trees to put this up. His house faces perfectly for solar. I don't get that aspect of it, and I'm not getting involved in that part of this decision. But I think sadly this field is going where it is so that the owners themselves do not have to stare at it on a daily basis. And we will. And I do continue to want to live there, and will be there maybe longer than this gentleman, maybe not. But
It just doesn't
Bottom
seem like
line-
he's exhausted all the other, I mean, he could put him in front of
in your-
those trees. His wife,
Okay, who are you? I mean,
Paula Stoddard,
Paula Stoddard, okay.
81 Burn Road.
we have,
It feels like he could
Procedure.
put him on his side of the yard in front of those trees without cutting them down. Basically, I'm not an engineer, but also he has a lot of roof space. It feels like he just doesn't want to look at him himself.
this kind of opens up a whole area, I think, for future too. I mean, there's a lot of big lots in Bolton. These solar fields are I find them unattractive, and that's, everybody has their opinion. But, you know, this is a wildlife area, this is border and, you know, conservation land. This is, every given night, there's half a dozen deer out there. This is not, you know, this is, we're getting beyond where I need to get. Bottom line is, I just don't approve of them approaching any further than they need to be. And if there's a hardship for it, so be it. You know,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to apologize to the Stoddards. I was unaware that they were property owners.
yeah.
Well, were they served notice to the butters? Were they all
I'll see them
notified?
on the list.
Says the property owner's protect.
Yeah, Paul's been on the deed since, whatever, 98?
That's not updated.
Oh, this is not the correct ownership?
Excuse me?
The Paquette is not the correct ownership?
Yes, I'm Dorothy Paquette, 81 Durham Road, this is my daughter Paula Starr.
Okay, okay, now I get the relationship there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's on the deed too, it's just not updated here.
Okay.
Can I add something, please?
So, who's speaking? Okay.
Dorothy
Okay,
Paquette?
sure. Mhm.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that Les has been a great neighbor all these years, and I'm sorry this is, I'm down to this. But I did say to him, when he first approached me about it, and I thought about it, and I said, I think it's great, the solar energy and all that, but I think what you want to do is canceling out the greenness of it by taking a pristine environment, this field, which all the years that he was busy doing soccer or whatever he was doing on the weekend, I mowed his part of the field to keep it a field. And I said, it's beautiful back there. And to see these things in a field, I think is so ugly. I said, put it on your roof. And he said, no, he didn't want it because his wife thinks they're ugly. I'm like, that's what they are in a field. I'm back there all the time. I garden back there, I mow back there, my barn's down there. I don't want to see them. I'm sorry, Les.
I have no, there's no animosity involved here.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to point out two things. There's insufficient space on the roof in order to satisfy the necessary number of panels in order to generate electricity. That survey was done the same day that the space was identified in the third yard, et cetera. The other side of the coin is the fact that I can move it 5 feet and it's still going to be there. And that kind of disturbs me because I was unaware that there was this much concern relative to what's going on.
So, absent the comments about the aesthetics in the property, it's still within zoning. It looks like it can be done on your property line with some disturbance of some trees, but it doesn't appear that that is a hardship sort of caused by the land. It's just, you know, so.
And I would still request that the board rule on the variance.
Okay, so.
It has contractual implications.
Okay. So your earlier statement that you could just withdraw it and just do what you want, you'd rather have us rule on the application?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We paid the fees, et cetera. I want to hear the ruling.
Any other comments from the board? Any questions? Any more questions from the audience?
But I just don't understand why it couldn't be put on a roof when most people put it on a roof.
Insufficient.
Well, as the applicant and you said that depending on how many units of the structure to generate the electricity they need, the capacity, it's insufficient on this house size. So they can put things probably on it, but they probably wouldn't meet their needs of power generation. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, and we've had other, parcels in town where that has been the case as well. You know, they, depending on house size, whatever, number of units house, would help, but it wouldn't do, so if they have property, they put it on a ground mount, so case by case basis, though. Okay, so.
Excuse me, Dorothy Paquette, 81 Durham Road. What about the front yard? Why can't you put it in the front yard?
we would have to remove the trees that are within the 16 feet center lines of the front road, Burnham Road. And I don't own those trees.
And so frontage issues, I mean, I don't know what the property line, so, but.
The property line runs to Burnham Road. In order to be able to get the sun that we're looking for, we would have to remove probably in the order of a dozen trees somewhere.
So,
And if they're within areas, then it's, that we can't decide where they put it anyways.
right. Mhm.
So it's,
We could choose to put it somewhere else,
Right.
but as currently applied for, this is where we're finding it. And so if there's no more comments from the audience, then one in the back.
Martha Remington. I live on Main Street and I'm chairman of the Historical Commission. Aren't there solar panels that can actually look like roofing tiles? I thought Bob Zach had them on his house. And they look like a roof. That was just a comment. I mean, one of the sacrifices we have to have now is to be green, we have to have ugly structures around. And even the Historical Commission can't deny, on a house with a preservation restriction, can't deny solar panels on the roof. As the building inspector says, you can't deny it outright. But they are an eyesore, and every tree that's cut is a tree that's not going to put oxygen back in our air either. So it's kind of a heartless conundrum. Thank you.
Excuse me, can I make one more comment? Dorothy Paquette, 81 Burnham Road.
Sure.
I've been in town since 1969. I plan on dying here. But if something were to come up and we decided that we wanted to put our house up on the market, how would this affect my property value if somebody wants to go down back and look at my acreage and they see solar panels right up to my property line? I don't think that's going to benefit it.
So,
Instead of looking at a field, you're going to look at all these solar
I
panels?
bought it, I love it.
So for the requirements, the granting the variance,
Right.
do they have to meet each and every one of these?
yes, yeah, right. So you'd have to meet all four conditions of the permit request, of the Mass General Law variance. Is that, the first one is that they're certainly relating to the soil conditions, shape, topography, or land that uniquely affects the structures, but not the general zoning area. That literal enforcement would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. That the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and that desired relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the bylaws.
Can I ask how you define the concept of financial hardship?
Well, certainly there's cost involved there, but the hardship isn't necessarily being caused by the uniqueness of the land. It's that, yes, there's trees there, and you can take them down, or you have land, especially on your property. So, for example, sometimes look at ledge. They say, well, I'd have to blast my property and potentially other areas because the ledge is by nature, if it's unique to your property. So you have ledge on your property, but all the homes around you ought to have just regular grass fields or no ledge and just have trees. You'd have a unique area, a uniqueness to that property that to remove that condition could incur significant cost, so that hardship is then unique to that land.
And I understand, my question was, what's the definition of significant financially?
I don't have a bandwidth for that would be significant.
Could you guess, would it be 10, 20,000, 50,000, 5,000?
Again, if it's deriving from the uniqueness of the land is my understanding. So the impact of that from the land. There seems like there's trees.
Okay,
all throughout that area.
so the trees are not considered part of the
Well, I don't know if
site.
I'm not sure if it's considered unique to the property.
Okay.
Because it's consistent throughout, looks like the whole area, that area within question, say your area, the neighbor's property lines, and those levels, so probably don't have similar.
I understand. Thank you.
Eric, you have a question?
No, I had a comment, Eric Uriari, town planner. It's not up to the board to decide what that hardship is. It's really on the applicant to come forward with what that hardship is and explain it to the board, and then the board would weigh in. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So those are the four items that we as a board have to look at and that are required by Mass General Law. And each of those items have to be met for us to be able to grant a variance.
And the other one, we did explain the trees being the hardship of having it be a cost in order to remove them.
Right.
Yeah, look at your overhead one more time.
Sure. So, last chance for comments from the audience? And then we'll-
I just want to throw this in for consideration. My name's Kevin. If, basically, the bottom line here is I'm trying to push this thing off from even happening. That's kind of obvious. If in fact this does go through, sadly, I don't think there's, I will be planting trees along the property line. So this problem is gonna persist. And I don't mean that as a threat. I just mean that, if you're cutting down trees to put in a solar field, I certainly am probably gonna plant trees, and it may equal out. But there's nothing preventing me from planting trees so that I don't have to stare at the field. In essence, it may end up blocking the sun to the solar panels. So we're gonna, this is kind of stupid, this whole thing. Luckily for me, I don't think you're deep enough that anybody's gonna take a bath on this. 46 grand is that's just a number thrown out there for the cost of the project, not anything that he has incurred at this point. So I'm sorry that this has come down to this, but that's I just want to throw that in as you guys progress in your plans and what you're gonna do. By no means is this is the variance should not go through, and that's why this is even coming up, that we're fighting it. I just don't want it there.
So with that, let's close, I have a motion to close the...
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second. Okay. So motion to close the hearing, Jack Hines, seconded by, was it?
Yeah,
Brad first, okay. So, we have a motion to close, seconded, so all in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. The public application closed. Okay. So, I have a little trouble with sort of getting over the last hurdle of the requirement, which would be relief will be granted without null by substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaws, in that we have property that can be used to keep it in compliance where they wouldn't need a variance. So I don't know if that's anyone else has that problem, but...
Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, I like the whole concept of what they want to do.
Right.
It's just that we're trying to squeeze something in an area that there's another way to accomplish it.
Right.
I mean, this happens all the time when we have these hearings, but, my house has got solar collectors on it, and I cut down probably 100 trees. I happen to have the area to do that, but it was worthwhile doing it, and, it's paid off. I'd like to see other people do that too, but it becomes an issue. I also happen to live in a place where nobody can see my house, so I don't have neighbors that are worried about what the heck I'm doing over there. I don't, in my mind, see how we, even if we were all in favor of this, there's any way we could issue a variance. That's just a...
Right, right. Even with the lack of objection from an abutter,
Yeah.
I still don't think it meets the requirement.
Absolutely right, yeah.
Certainly. So, with that, want to make a motion, or?
That's good, yes.
What are we, so we're making a motion to deny or to,
It's either deny or approve, really.
yeah, based on the situation where we basically are talking about a 5-foot shift in its location to meet zoning, and that trees, though they are wonderful and part of the environment, are not permanent, because they can get blown down by hurricanes and all sorts of other things, so it's not like having a ledge outcrop or something. We've had other situations where there is a septic system which will be very expensive to replace in the way of, so those are hardships, I think, that really would be. This one is fairly easily remedied, you know, with clearing some brush, I think. So I would say that, A, we have objections from abutters, which is usually something that weighs heavily in our decisions. Typically, if everyone in the neighborhood is on board, then that certainly clears some hurdles.
And it goes to the derogation of the public. as
The
well.
derogation so, based on the objections and the fact that there is another way to solve the issue without a variance, I would recommend we deny this variance.
So you're making a motion to
I'm
deny
making
them.
to deny the variance requested by Mr. Wagspat.
I'll second.
So a motion to deny and a second by Jack Sargent. So all in favor of the motion to deny the application for variance, say aye.
Aye.
So the motion denied. Thank you for your time.
My thanks to the board, thank you.
We can stop at 6. It's ready. Are you presenting? So we can stop the, why is it stop the portions at this time?
Somebody's better. I'm fine with it.
So we're going to stop to the next case of business, please. Guys? The other hearing's over now, so we're going to stop the next hearing? Okay? Thanks.
Thank you.
You can stay if you want, but... Alright, so the second order of business, I'll read the meeting notice required. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Walton Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing Monday, October 16th, 2018 at, it's scheduled 7:20, but it's 7:35 p.m. in Bolton. The Board of Selectmen of Town Hall, 662 Main Street, Bolton, to hear and act upon the application of Bolton Cracker Barrel LLC, members Stenio and Denise Talarita. The applicant is seeking a special permit for the property and structure located in Bolton's residential zoning district at 716 to 718 Main Street, identified on the Assessors Map 1.0 as parcel 36. The applicant is seeking a special permit to alter the pre-existing non-conforming use from office to retail office pursuant to section 253C of the Code of the Town of Bolton. So, welcome.
sit right here or sit up there?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
I'll just stay right here.
All right, sure.
My name is Stan, told you, and this is my wife Denise. And we been Bolton residents up until we moved. So we still have the Cracker Barrel building here that is where I met her for the first time I laid eyes on her, so I had a special meaning to us. We've had it, it's been rented out upstairs, and we have offices downstairs. We're in Florida now, we've been gone for a number of years, so we don't have the facility here to be able to, be there on a day-to-day basis. So it's been rented, and now we've decided that we want to move on, and we've had interest, there's been people that have had an interest in the building to have possibly an antique shop, a gift shop, a general store, and I've kind of thought about all the different possible uses, and just a retail capability. Basically, that building is kind of unique. It's in the historical register. It is the center of Bolton. It defines it as across from the new town common. So something that will be complementary to the center of town that can bring somewhat of an economic benefit if it's the right kind of operation. It would seem to me that the next people that can carry on from where we've been would want to do that. So that's what we were asking to do, is build a retail. They had originally thought about a general store. It was a general store originally, way back when, and in fact,
There's a picture.
there's a picture. It's kind of messy, but that's what it was.
Hate to say it, I remember when it was like that.
Yeah. So, but our,
1800?
it was in 1823.
Oh, come on.
And it served as post office, became a general store again, and then most recently it was a real estate office. And when it was real estate office, there were 14 agents in there, so we're kind of looking at it with putting something that doesn't have that many people in it would be probably better. A retail operation typically for this kind of community would be less people, but hopefully with the right kind of aura. My vision would be having unique gift shop, perhaps for the kids at the ball field, having the ability to buy sodas and whatnot. So there's a lot of different ways to go. And so we're asking that the use as a retail operation be added. We had talked to the Board of Health, because I was thinking perhaps, get coffee, but if you don't have the Board of Health can't control the source, can't do that. So, source of the water. So obviously that actually probably makes sense. So like a general retail where you can combine a lot of country flavored kind of things, I think would be pretty cool in the center of town. So,
it's Denise Tallery. There used to be stores in there too, even while it was Bolton Center Realty in the front. We used to have a gift store in the back. It was really nice, it goes with the flavor of the town too, so.
How long ago was that?
That was in the 90s. Let's see,
well, it was definitely in the 90s. When I met her, I didn't meet you. There was retail in there. She was in one section of it. And then,
they had it divided. It's actually 2 units downstairs, and when Coldwell Banker came in, they took both units. But it also had, what was that?
Woodward and Son.
Woodward and Son. When Bill Burton owned Bolton Center Realty before he sold it, it was actually 3 units downstairs. But it was so nice having that gift store in the back. It just goes with the flavor of the town. People come down 117 to Applepick and all, and then with the beautiful job that was done on the common, my God, we were shocked when we saw it. It was beautiful. Last time I saw it at a gas station there. And it would just be kind of neat, you know, when you have different functions there, like tree lighting ceremony, and, you know, I imagine that Christmas tree is probably gonna go there, I would think, just like in Harvard Common, they do that, and everybody had hot chocolate and carols, it's just so cool. So we just thought it would, you know, and it is a non-conforming building, but we're trying to, it's hard to make it conforming when it's not conforming. You just can't, because you couldn't build it like that today, you know, it's, so what do you do with it? It's a shame because it's such a neat old building.
So, what, historically, did it have a retail use? I mean, was it actually considered
At one
retail?
point, yes. I mean, if they had a gift shop in the 90s, that would have been considered retail.
I remember a video store in there too.
Yeah, but just to clarify, it's been abandoned for more
So
than 2
it
years.
didn't,
No
would that be
longer.
considered abandoned?
Yes.
Is the abandoned use?
After 2 years, it's
After 2
considered
years.
abandoned.
Right, that use.
That particular use, yeah.
But it wasn't changed then to a conforming structure, was it? Is that
It was changed to an office.
office?
Yeah.
It's hard to make that conforming, trust me.
Now, you rented the upstairs.
That's been
apartments,
rented, when we bought it, the same tenants were in there.
So you still have tenants upstairs?
And, you know, from a point of view of somebody moving forward with it, that space could be used. And for example, if somebody had, you know, used to be a skier, not anymore, but you'd have, around skiers, you'd have antiques, you'd have unique gifts, you'd have all kinds of stuff. So the space is there if somebody wanted to do that. But as it is right now, it's got 2 apartments up top, and then the first floor was, most recently had the offices. But just before that, it had different retail outlets. So we wanted to just add that, because I think it had, with the experience we had with the offices there, is they had a lot of people in it. And I think,
Mary Ann worked there.
yeah,
I worked there for 19 years with Eileen.
Yeah, I guess my concern is parking. If there are 2 apartments upstairs, then you have to remove those spaces from.
well, the way we worked it, because the parking, when we had the office, that was more of a stress on it than I'm proposing. And the parking was down the end in 2 spots, and that left all the rest of the spots free for the people in the office. There's also an area, there's an area right here that the tenants can park in, that we just never did it because we didn't have to. There was enough space there as it was.
You
So-
also had them tandem park, the
We were
Well-
tandem park.
tandem parking.
Well, because they had 14 agents in there. So what typically a retail is going to have 1 or 2 salespeople and just kind of a turnover of people. So the parking would go down substantially less than what its last use. So
I see 8 parking spaces here.
on that side, and then over here,
And then these are also, where are they accessible from?
well, you just park right here, you know, because this is all open.
So you have to basically have some kind of access.
The office people, no, you just drive in like this. The driveway is here.
Right.
Somebody can park there, but these would be empty most of the time.
Okay, so if you,
Tenants are down here, actually the tenants are over here.
if you
On
mark,
this
if
one.
you mark this, if you kind of mark this as a driveway to prevent somebody from parking.
Well, no, it has to be marked as a driveway.
Right, exactly.
That's what we had it lined at one point. What I would do is because you need a driveway here. Okay,
Yeah.
to be able to, because the tenants would, their access is right here anyway, so this would make it closer. Right now, they're down here, okay? So if you put them over here, but you wouldn't need all this space for retail like we did for the office.
Yeah, the only issue is if these are filled and somebody wants to get out from here, then you got an issue.
Yeah, but, I mean, the turnover that you get with retail is, these would be the employees that are running the store. okay?
Yep.
Is the way, or they can park down the end like the tenants are doing now, and do it with that and just leave these open.
Well, I mean, I just think we can have to work out some kind of a plan to make it work, but I just.
Yeah, and if the employees park down here, they could do that, but this area is available, you know? And the way, the turnover, because what I did is I investigated the turnover of different kinds of businesses, and they were like, it's gonna turn over, you know, it just turns over, because nobody stays there 8 hours, you know? You know,
So there won't be seating area in there, it's just.
It's not, it's just shop.
Just some shop.
Yeah.
Or some type of space to.
Erica, did you mention at one point that the police chief had made a comment about this?
Yeah, so I went down, and I talked to Sten after this.
Yeah.
We did a site visit, and Chief Nelson does have concerns, same as Brad, with the parking and the traffic flow. And then he also had 2 other concerns related to the lighting, which you say there is lighting there that can be turned on, correct?
There
In the front.
There's lighting in there.
Okay. And then just to confirm where the entrance would be, particularly for ADA compliance, and you said it would be the rear.
It would be right in that back.
Right.
Because it goes up, you can do it there.
Right.
Yeah.
I also wanted to clarify too, because I thought when we were talking, you did want to maintain a portion of the office use as well.
Well, the thinking being that you, in any operation, you're probably gonna have to have some management, some accounting, and some, you know, and that would be, it's naturally set up for that already, because it's kind of isolated on one side. But, you know, somebody could do it, could set up differently if they want. But I don't see why, I mean, I think if you had the present use plus adding retail, let the person who's going to ultimately, you know, develop it the way they want it, make that decision whether they move walls or not. The biggest thing on the parking, I think, is that with Coldwell Banker having that many people, that office having that many people in there, you know, we had to really address that. With this kind of operation, it eliminates, I mean, the turnover is so much different with retail than it is with all the people we had in there before, because that was an issue before. And with retail, and I've postulated to various people in the convenience store, talked to some consultants, they said, this is about what you're gonna get, this is the turnover, this is how much time they spend, and this is how much they're gonna spend, and blah, 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 blah. I said, well, how long are they in? He said, about 6 minutes. That's convenience. Now, if you have another type of thing, you know, antiques, if I go to an antique shop, I could be there for an hour and a half, all right? But it's not all day, and it's not 15 people. You know what I mean? So the congestion that existed before, and they still managed it, would be dramatically less with virtually anything I can imagine going in there, that because of the size of the building, and again, hundreds of people going in because you don't have enough to offer somebody. But
Somebody going in and out like every 6 minutes, somebody.
well, that was with a convenience store.
Okay.
Okay? If you go antiques, if you go gift shop, if you go anything else, I think that you're gonna have less people. I mean, the convenience store had the most traffic, but also the quick turnover, okay? So if you go with something that has, because of the nature of what the operation is, has less traffic, longer turnover, but less traffic, you know, you could probably on maybe a Saturday or a Sunday, you might get some people in there, but at that point, then you don't have the traffic from the commuting traffic, okay? I think the kind of operation that would get people to want to go there, whether if you had a gift shop and those kind of operations would probably get more traffic on a weekend, you know. The other thing that, just in talking with people, is that there's probably a lot of foot traffic from, if they could go in and get tonic and, you know, pick up stuff and snacks, etc. Because, you know, a gift shop can have gifts, can have a tonic thing, can have, you know, sodas and that kind of stuff. And I know when I lived in town, I was down the ball field all the time, you know, eating covers, but so have the ability to walk over if you're a kid. So, you know, the whole point is it's a neat building, and I think it's hard to make, you had to do anything with it because of the way it was built back in 1823. You know, but it is a neat building, and with the right kind of operation, that's really pretty cool, and I think it'd be a great compliment. And, you know, we were both residents for a long time, and now we're not, but we still kind of obviously have the affinity for it, so that's what we're trying to do. So we don't want a variance, we just want to add retail, which it's been before, for most of its life, actually.
It was built as a store.
Would there be tables for people to consume things like coffee?
No, can't do that. If you, Brad, if you do that, you have to have a kitchen license.
I know.
Okay,
I
and
just was
we
saying.
absolutely don't want to do that.
Right, that would delay.
Forget it. That won't work. You have to do stuff where people aren't going to sit there a long
Right,
time.
exactly.
Okay? And that, a kitchen license doesn't work there. Okay, it just doesn't work, I mean. So, we were thinking coffee, because that's not really preparing stuff, but even if you had it brought in, if they, Board of Health can't certify the source of the water, you can't do that. So, just eliminate that from the equation, because there's enough other uses that would be, I think, very appropriate in there, that would be positive for this town, and, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with a common across the street, but I think over time they'll probably get more stuff going on in there, and then if the right business in there will be kind of a complementary kind of thing. So that's what we're trying to do. And as far as the parking goes, because I think, you know, even with all those people in there, nothing ever happened. But they had, you know, if you're at traffic hour, that's probably the most compelling time to have an issue. But a retail operation is probably not geared around traffic hour as so much as some other types of operations.
Yeah, well, the worst problem will occur when they're having soccer practice or baseball practice or something over at the field, and then you're gonna have it, and that's always a jam.
It's jammed, but the thinking over there is that it's so close, it's about, you know, 100 yards, so that, you know, you can ask the kids to walk down.
It'll be foot traffic, but then we get, anyway.
You know, but I think it'd really be neat for the town to be able to do that and get the right kind of operation. It's pretty cool.
It's also been like that its whole life, you know. It's no different than it's been off and on with all the different things that have been in there.
Yeah.
And we used to park on Main Street.
I was going to say, I remember when the building used to cover the whole lot. I mean, half the building is gone from what used to be
Oh,
there.
really? There was bigger before?
That whole parking lot used to be all building. When it was
Really?
that
Wow.
store,
That's so cool.
when I was a kid, when that store, the picture you showed, the grocery store went all the way back over that whole parking area.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't
So
know
it
that.
used to be like twice the size of what it is now.
Wow. I know I had a...
So, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I had a lady walk in when I was working there as a realtor, and she goes, where's the ice cream store? And I said, there's no ice cream store here. She said, yes, there was. I come here all the time. I used to come here. Where is it? I said, well, it's not here.
It was a long time ago.
She was mad. She was really upset. And I said, I'm sorry.
Question in the back or comment?
Yes, as an abutter,
What's your name, please?
Alice Coggeshall,
Okay, and your address?
corner of Main and Waterquatic.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to know how any plans might affect the exterior appearance of the building.
Just done anything on
Well,
that?
it's looked the same the last, you know,
4 years.
and we integrated with the Historical Society, because we changed the windows out, we replaced the front porch, we rebuilt the front porch, and we did it all within the architecture of the way it was. I mean, it looks exactly the same, but it's, all those columns in front are poly,
Right.
you know.
But you're looking to, if you get a special permit, would you be selling the property?
Yeah, I don't have the, listen, I'm gonna, yeah,
So that,
yeah.
so that someone, if they sold it, could, if they came in, unless there were conditions, they could say, oh yeah, we're gonna do something, we'll alter it and make it, if we have retail.
That, I don't think Martha's gonna allow that.
Well, I didn't say Martha would, but,
We're not a local historic district, and unfortunately, we don't, exterior appearance, we comment on, but we
Right.
don't have a lot of clout, except it's the whole national district, and we hope it wouldn't look like some real modern outside.
Could you put it in the
You could
I
put
mean,
it deep.
you know,
you could put it
listen,
deeper
we have a lot of
than
sensitivity to that, because it's emotionally
It shouldn't
good
be
for me.
changed.
It shouldn't be changed.
We could write that in
Okay?
the.
I mean, I do it that way, to where they have, keep it within the construct of what the character of the town is. That's what I mean, if I were 20, 30 years younger, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here doing it that way. But I just can't do it anymore. I don't have the physical strength and the, you know. Please, get your hands up.
that's not the
She molests me.
just remember you're on TV and. All right,
So-
any comment here?
Mary Chimocorn Road. So, am I understanding that you want to sell this building? Or do you have plans to do this
Yeah.
retail?
No, I'm in Florida, so I just can't do it.
So by,
But we've had people,
We've had a lot of people.
we've had people that like the town and certainly like the building, because the building's neat. It's a neat building. And they want to take it for what it is and be able to, you know, use it in the context of what the feel of the building is. Because, I mean, it really makes sense to do it that way.
so you're having a hard time selling it
Yes, yeah.
because people who are interested want to do retail instead of just commercial, or?
There's no commercial, it's office.
Instead of office.
Office. We've looked at
No,
office.
but are you getting people interested in buying it, saying, gee, I would buy this, except
That's right.
We've had people that have wanted to do retail. We've had people looked at it for office, but in the process of doing this, we started looking at it and saying, you know, the use of the building was, the history of the building was as a general store, convenience, I mean, and if you took it and made it, you know, where it's got gifts, specialty gifts, and put in possibly antiques, a combination of all of that, which, you know, you want to keep the building the way it is, because it's a cool looking building, okay? And I think that's what attracts people there, okay? So that's what I would have as a vision, is not change, well, I definitely wouldn't want to change the outside of that building.
Can I comment, because I've actually been marketing, I live in Lake Waterquatic. I've been marketing it, and we've had a lot of trouble on the office part. We have people we had a guy who wanted to set up a computer shop there, couldn't do it because it wasn't office, because he was gonna do some sales. We've had a lot of interested people, not in high volume, but low volume retail. Office space, there's tons of office space in town that's just sitting there. And that's been the main drawback for him as far as.
But if you look at.
Can you address the board and not like have a
Don't talk to
conversation?
me.
So,
Okay, well, you took my train of thought away.
Don't smack him
That's
one
a
more
gift.
time.
It's a gift we have.
Yeah, okay. No, what I was, the whole notion of going, trying to take it back to where it was, I think is because of the nature of the town. I think that something in there that is done right, with the right kind of atmosphere, products, et cetera. I think it's, would go, because Eileen had told us what was going on with the common. We hadn't really seen it until yesterday, 2 days ago. And it came out really cool. And so I said, well, geez, that would be kind of a neat thing to have, is right at the top of the hill, having the building the way it was and having the right kind of activities going on in there. And I think it had less traffic too, so so we were all on board with it. That's why I kind of did that, but along the way, it took me a while to put that together, because I just wanted to make sure I understood all the logistics of it.
So no plans to extend it or alter it, just use the same footprint and just...
Just leave the building alone, you wouldn't do anything to it. I mean, signage, you know, but signage there right now, and the town would have to approve the signs anyway.
But he's selling it. So it's, once you sell it, then you're dealing with a whole new owner who has their own plans in terms of if it's going to
Special permit,
stay.
if we issue a special permit, it would be recorded, it would be for that property. So they would have, if there's conditions on the special permit or whatnot, and it's retail, limited retail, whatever, you know, then they'd have to work with that, or come to the board, or come to town, and say, we now own this property, we want to do something different. So they have to get a permit to do something different.
I understand that, but in terms of how it looks or that sort of thing, I mean, that's pretty much out of your control. Whether or not it can be used as retail or
Well, I mean,
office.
how, anybody that's interested in that building has been interested because of the character of the building. So if a buyer was gonna come in and say, well, I'm gonna tear it down, it would make no sense, because you can't replace it. Now you're gonna, it's something you couldn't use, really, because you don't have enough place to build a new one to the current standards.
It's a pre-existing non-conforming building, so basically if you tear it down,
You can't do anything.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't put a new building up.
You couldn't.
Could you state, could you somehow state that the exterior of the building has to remain looking the
that
same?
would be...
Well, I mean, I wanted to do
Then
that.
that would protect.
I mean, from that perspective,
think
we
we should.
care about this building.
I know, I get that.
And, but we're at a point in our life where, you know, time is running out, you know, and so we have to kind of move on. I'd like to have it stay looking exactly the way it is, and have it used that's, I think, gonna be more beneficial than it was in the past, because I think you can put stuff in there that's complementary that will better serve the town.
So we have a couple questions on this side, and then, your name?
Eric Nealon, Bear Hill Road. I just want to say that I think that this is an awesome use for this property with the new town common, trying to revitalize, you know, a town center. I think that adding retail in here, which would just be, you know, it would just add to the vision that people had for the town. And I know there's been like a post on Facebook, but there's like over 71 people have commented and liked it, and a bulk of them were for it. The people who were against it were for traffic concerns and parking, but a bulk of the people loved this idea and were extremely happy to hear that it was a potential retail store.
So, yeah, we'll have to benefit, we'll have to always have to benefit that public safety component of retail, and what complements it will be the traffic one.
So also, I know there's the concerns, and I know that the planning board will be looking at parking issues, and I know that there's a 117 committee that will be looking at traffic, but I think, you know, it's kind of the impetus to, I think this whole area needs to be revamped, and I think that, you know, getting retail what it's been for the past 180 years is, I see no reason why there shouldn't be able to be a retail shop there.
This gentleman here, and then we'll go back.
Yeah, Mark Ayotte from 985 Main Street. So my biggest concern, actually, when I looked at it, is not as much on with Eric, kind of retail would be nice and all this, but that area, that turn from Wattaquatic in, I went down, I did a little test, I drove in, I tried to back out. This was on Sunday morning. I almost got clocked 3 times on my blind spot. Luckily, I had my blind spot in the rear thing coming by. It's a real big traffic issue. Now we're talking about convenience, where we're gonna have 6 to 30-minute turns on the traffic. That could potentially be a lot of back out traffic. And if you look at this, the way the traffic goes in, backs out, then we talk about our public safety vehicles that actually use that side of the road coming down to get out Wattaquatic, because a lot of times it's the only way that they can get out quickly and come down there, ambulances, fire trucks. Then you have somebody with a car, minivan, who doesn't see past, seeing past the building is very difficult. Before you're gonna approve anything, you have to take a very hard look at this property and its traffic situation now. And, you know, I'm now on the 117 thing. We do need to look at it there too. I mean, I'd like to find a way to make it so that it is useful. But unfortunately, looking at the way that the traffic is, the way that the parking is, where you have to pull in and back out into, you have to back out into traffic, okay? I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'm a common sense engineer, and all things common sense tell me at that corner, you just can't do it. I mean, so adding extra turns to that property and being a retail type it was great when it was retail, when it was a real estate office, because people pulled in for the day. Yeah, they might go out to do some showings, but they weren't doing a new showing every 30 minutes or less, everybody. So unfortunately, I'm mostly against it. Please, can I at least say, talk to the board? And I'm not against it being as much made retail. I just think that if a traffic study is done and whatever has to be done to get something as a town, we can't just go out and say, oh yeah, we think it's safe or whatever. We gotta make sure that it's safe, because God forbid somebody comes around the corner whipping and takes out one of our residents because we approve something. I don't know, that's just my biggest concern with it when I saw it, and it really deeply concerned me, especially once I pulled my Expedition in. You know, and everybody's driving these large SUVs. I could not practically get out of there on a Sunday. So forget a weekday or a weekday morning or a weekday evening and such.
Someone in the back had her hand up first, and then...
Kia Oceanvine, 702 Main. I'm not as concerned about adding retail as I would be normally, except that if I think it would be good if you could hold off determining this for two reasons. One is that, you know, it sounds lovely what everyone's described, but it is hypothetical because we don't know who's going to buy it. And, you know, we don't know what they need to do or want to do, and I think it's kind of dreamy that we all talk about what can be there until we have a more specific plan. But the most important reason I think you should delay is that the planning board is pursuing this, what I would call kind of crazy idea of rezoning the property as limited business, something that sets off a lot of alarm bells in our neighborhood, because if you combine that and retail, I think you might get a situation where they tore the building down to put up a pod. Or, you know, even more, it's a toehold on having business in a residential neighborhood that is, you know, would be expanded at the expense of us who live there and have residential properties. And I mean, I'm not sure. I sort of think they can't do it anyway because it's spot zoning and it's illegal, but you might just want to give it a couple months to see how that plays out, because I think a lot of us are more concerned about that plus the retail. I don't really mind retail in there because I think it is constricted enough so that anyone who might buy it is, you know, would be small enough to make it work. Otherwise, they're going to be a failed business. I mean, then they're not going to make money off of people at the Common or the Memorial Field. You need, you know, 12 months of the year, at least 5 to 7 days a week. And I'm just worried if it becomes limited business and retail, that somebody would take, you know, you wouldn't have apartments there, they would put in a bigger, more robust business.
So what we have to deal with right now is just the deciding upon the application to issue a special permit to allow for retail. Doesn't, like I say, we're not defining or the actual business that's going to be there. As we indicated earlier, someone coming in proposing, you know, if they want to come in and say, well, you know, we have retail, but we want to do something different, they'd have to come back in front of the board to alter that.
Right, well, I think what I'm saying is that maybe you should deny it now and then encourage the new owner to come forth and that you would reconsider it at that time.
So good. Joe in the back, and then we'll come back.
Hank Amabile, 698 Main, and my wife and I also own 720 Main, which is directly adjacent to the Cracker Barrel. One question I have is, it sounded like what you'd said earlier was that granting a special permit, that's what we're talking about tonight, for retail could be conditioned. In other words, there could be like an order of conditions from
Granting
Conservation
we're
Commission.
allowed to impose conditions, right? So
Yeah.
we can-
So is one of my big concerns is retail's a very broad definition. And I really, I don't know what, you guys probably do, know what's under the umbrella for retail is, I just don't. But I do know that if there's a limited business zone, then it has to go before the selectmen for a special permit and be seriously, sliced and diced. I don't know what giving the retail designation tonight does to have control so that something, odd doesn't go in there.
Well, the reason that they're at this board in the first place is because it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure. It goes to the Board of Appeals because it just doesn't meet any of the zoning requirements for a normal retail operation. The similar thing happens down at Bolton Orchards. They're a pre-existing non-conforming. So anytime they want to make a change in their operation, whether we had one about serving ice cream and some of the other things, they've come to this board because they're pre-existing non-conforming business.
So is that saying it would never, nothing that happens to that building would ever hit the planning board? It would always hit you guys?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's the division because it doesn't meet current zoning in any event. And
Right.
so the Board of Appeals has jurisdiction.
And so, to someone's point earlier about if there were restrictions, or if you had said the special permit would be recorded, right, and whoever bought it would be under they'd have to go with that.
Right, so for example, if the applicants have inferred that, or indicated that they would like a special permit for a retail component that would be so under the guideline or the nature of a general store, and they've indicated a few type of products that would be under that, as well as maybe antique or something, so there's some areas that would condition that it have to be substantial conformity of that type of, those types of operations, and then if it was to be expanded from that, yes, someone would have to come back and say, oh, well, the permit says we can do, retail that's consistent with a general store, potentially antique or gift items, artistic gift item, whatever. And then if someone were to broaden it and say, well, we want to put a CVS, say for example, a CVS type of, retail, well, they would have to, someone would have to come back to the town, they'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be CVS.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it may just be between.
Could it be a marijuana dispensary?
Well, they have, I don't know, I mean, we have the bylaws for that, and, but again, if they were going to try to do that, then yes, they're probably not consistent with the general store, right? I mean,
well, moving in that direction.
Yeah, it's like selling cigarettes now, isn't it?
But we're not there yet, so I think that would certainly be construed as a use that you would have to come back and get, looked at, so.
Can I ask a question? Across the street, there's a building that's almost directly across the street that is selling antiques. So, did they go through the same process? Or?
Yes.
They had to go through a special permit.
Many years ago,
Yeah.
Okay, but they did, yeah.
Okay. And were there, obviously you got kind of some of the same issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
Parking is
They have no parking.
Well,
It's the parking.
let me make a statement about that, because, I've been in and out of there a lot, and, we can do a theoretical, and then we can do empirical and actual. And when they were there in that building, you know, getting in and out, I've never had a problem getting in and out. I mean, we're building if you're looking at rush hour, with a retail operation, you might, when people come around the corner, but going in this direction, people coming from down 117, taking a right over Aquatic, get some of that, but we never had an issue. I mean, right up until recently. So we're now postulating that there is definitely an issue when there really hasn't been. So, you know, it's been working so far. And I don't think you flip a switch and all of a sudden it doesn't work because there's a fear of it, you know. And
I'd like to make a suggestion that we maybe take a quick site walk over there and look at the parking area and see if there are any remedies. I was thinking of coming up the driveway and then having that area where you had those 3 parking spaces in the back and point the cars out. Point them out so they're at least looking at the road rather than trying to back out into the traffic.
You could probably do it that way.
I mean, circulate, I just like to, I feel more comfortable looking at it from that standpoint, but, you know, that's my suggestion.
That would make sense.
So if we, I don't oppose that, I think that's, I mean, I like to see.
It's just a suggestion, yeah.
But if we did that, we'd have to continue the hearing.
Continue the hearing.
We'd have to pick a day that we could do the sidewalk as a board.
Right.
And then come back with that and then continue, and then wrap up the decision at that point, so. We'll go here first because you end up in and move over to Noni, then back to you.
So, again, Mark at 95 inch. Is there a way that they can have like a condition of being able to do retail with the property, but have to come back to the plan, to the ZBA for the traffic, for something? I don't know, is there a way to, like, is there a way to still put the retail on it, but require whoever buys it to come back and do some sort of traffic thing or something and make it a condition that you guys approve the traffic and the flow for whatever the use is? I don't know, I'm just trying to help them out, but yet skip the
Because the specific
delay.
uses haven't been-
Well, because the specific use isn't known, and who knows, there might be some instrument shop may go in there, and it might have 5 cars a day, and now it's not as big of a traffic issue as a candy store selling convenience stuff, and there's 50 or 80 cars in there and out of there a day. Now we have a big traffic problem, because as somebody who's looking at this 117 and Wattaquatic intersection thing very hard and trying to figure out how to solve our big traffic problems, which I appreciate the fact that you guys lived here, but you haven't lived here in the last probably 5 years or so, and our traffic issues have gone up exponentially as far as backup. You can't go through this town now at 4 p.m. because it's backed up to the highway, and you can't go through at 8 a.m. the other way because it's backed up to 985 Main Street where I live. Not complaining about it, it is what it is, but we have to try to remedy it, and we're working hard at it, but these unknowns and throwing an unknown at something like this, I just have a feeling that it's a real problem. At that intersection is a really big, we know it's a big problem. I mean, we're gonna tackle it right away. It's the top 3 that we're gonna jump on right away to fix.
One of the things,
Can I just answer that?
So one of the things, you know, if we were in agreement, we could do is you could set it up so that if it was a change of occupancy, that they would have to get, I'm gonna lump it back to the planning board, they go for site plan approval, so that they would review the traffic use on the property and make a decision whether, if it's gonna be, like you said, if it's gonna be an antique store and you expect 3 people an hour versus a convenience store where there's gonna be all kinds of cars, the planning board, because that's what is in their bailiwick, they do site plan approval on everything, so there wouldn't be any major issues, you would take that concern away.
Because then when it comes to us with regard to traffic, we always have to go back out to the police fire to opine on it, because we're not a traffic safety board, we're not.
But the planning board would do the same.
Planning board would do the same.
Yeah,
right?
and that's not their necessarily their expertise.
I just wanted to add one thing. Maybe they should check to see how many accidents have happened to people backing out of there. I don't think there were hardly any at all. Anybody trying to back out of that parking space. In all the years we've owned it for 11 years now, there's not been an accident of somebody trying to back out of there. And I know you have to be careful, but all of Bolton's like that. You got millions of driveways that are hidden over little hills and stuff. It's just the way the town was built, you can't change it. And if somebody decided to knock the building down, nobody could build on that again because it doesn't have the land, you know, but somebody had said there that, oh, what if they, you know, tear it down and put some horrible thing up there? You can't do that. Once you tear it down, you're not gonna be able to build on that lot because it's not conforming. So they don't have to worry about that. And if we put something in there stating that whoever bought it has to keep the exterior looking the way it is, it's part of Bolton. It's, you know, blinking light. It's, I mean, it's just such a neat old building. It's,
We get it.
And,
So, we have a woman back here that's having.
Oh, sorry.
So let's see what she
Hi,
has.
Gail Amabile, 698 Main Street, and 720, we own the property that's next to it. I love that building, there's no doubt about it, but I'm concerned about the parking, and I know you can park on Main Street as well, and that's right at the corner. I'd love to hear more from Chief Nelson to hear what his concerns are as well, as far as the parking, but if you were double upping, I mean, parking back to back. Tandem, then you're even moving more people out. I don't understand how the parking works, so I appreciate you guys going up the site work.
So maybe we do need to do is.
I think we gotta look at it, yeah.
And then, so we, you know, when will people be able to be available for that?
Next 2 weekends, I mean, we're during the week, but,
You don't want to do it on Sunday with the winery.
Could
Oh my
do it
God.
during like a lunchtime hour or something like that, or, no, because I don't know where, I can shoot sometimes home, but.
Weekends the only time I can do it.
Weekends the only time.
yeah, after, you know, I'm tied up with the 28th, and this weekend I'm tied up, so I just, but I can do it during the week. Maybe we can go at different times.
I can go mornings. I mean, I don't think I really need to go. I've been there enough times that I worked on that building when I was a kid, when they were remodeling and everything else, so I know what it is. So I kind of, I mean, if it's during the week and everybody else is going, or a couple of guys are going, I don't mind going, but weekends are tough for me because I'm usually winning.
can I ask a question? We're gonna be here for 2 more days. So I could meet with 1 or 2 people that are available and get your comments and see how we can do it. Because I think after getting the feedback from the Board of Health, I've kind of changed my perspective as to what would make sense in there. And doing more of a gifting kind of thing where you don't get the convenience store kind of turnover, but you're getting people that are fewer but longer and bigger dollar items, you know. That can be, and still within the character of the town, I think, you know. But I can certainly come out and do that. If somebody, 1 or 2 people.
Well, I think I'm gonna just drive by and take a look at, you know, take some measurements.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll come out there and kind of work things out with you and do some sketches to try to be proactive.
Right, so why don't we do it, Tim, rather than have a board sidewalk, if we just continue the hearing for another date, and then individually, if we could go out, if they have time to meet with Sten or whatnot, or we can at least come back and then we have the opportunity to discuss.
Once everyone
people
sees
thought.
it, then we can, yeah, then we can make that.
Are there any members that are available within the next 2 days that can meet with Sten so that he would know to be out there?
I could do it tomorrow.
I'm coming out tomorrow afternoon.
I can meet you there at noontime tomorrow if that works, or whatever, 1 hour.
We're gonna be there at 5, so we wanna do it at 3 maybe? Would that?
Yeah, I mean,
because I'd like to get your, you know, have you create, you know?
I could be there at 3, sure.
Okay, why don't we do that?
All right, I'll meet you at 3.
All right.
So, and then we'll just bring these along and kind of take measurements and
Yeah.
kind of reassess it.
I think there's a circulation that you can do so that the cars are heading out rather than trying to back
Well,
out.
one of the things that we thought, I mean, you could go, if there was enough, there's 8.5 feet to the side of the steps that go up on the west side of the building. If I tore down those stairs, then it'd open up, but it's kind of silly to do that. I need 1.5 foot.
And
And
isn't the well there?
the well is there, so it,
You'd have to
yeah,
go to
if
the
you-
well, it's not gonna work.
that wouldn't work, yeah. We'd have-
It's not
So
gonna
let's have, let's
yeah, I'll meet you
let's
guys.
meet.
I'll meet you
Let's
there.
get these last two comments here, and then, you know, we can always come back and reconvene after we have, okay, so Martha in the back, and then Mr. Lee.
Yeah, Martha Remington, I just want to remind people, it's unlawful to park closer than 20 feet to an intersection unless there are painted spaces at the side of the road. So no one should be parking directly in front of the store or in front of Ms. Cargoshel's home or across the street closer than 20 feet to the entrance into the common. They have a few spots in the common. There are spots around that might be able to be used, you know, unless there's a special function. The library has a bit of extra parking. It'd be nice if people who are going to go there parked and then walked a couple hundred feet down, you know, so that they could appreciate some of the other historic buildings and things. But I just wanted to mention that about the intersection parking before you did your sidewalk.
And then Mr. Lee.
So, Eric Nealon, Bear Hill Road. I know it was brought up that the planning board is looking into doing something, but that's very preliminary and probably shouldn't be considered in this. And also what the planning board is looking into shared and common parking bylaws, which can't be considered for this, but it's something that that as a town we're looking into for the future.
Shared and what does that mean actually?
Well, for instance, like 470 Main Street and the Country Covered, they're kind of have like a shared parking lot, so you can share spots between them. Like if you say this business is mainly a nighttime business and this business is a daytime business, we want to kind of reduce the number of impervious parking spaces. And then also common being, now that the town owns the town common, the spots there, Memorial Field, Library, like you said. You know, if you think like, I don't know, Concord, we're not Concord. If you think like Hudson, I mean, those are all pre-existing non-conforming, they don't have parking spots, they have common lots. So that's something that, you know, as a planning board, we would look into, you know, being able to, I think we talked about, like, say, up to 500 feet and off-site parking for up to 500 feet away to be included in the parking, you know, to make sense for those small type businesses. And then also, I know she said it, the building can't be torn down. Even if it is limited business, I mean, it needs to be right now 8%. So you can have a building that's probably like the size of a cardboard box, you know?
Right.
So.
Oh, excuse me, the reason it's non-conforming is it doesn't meet any front or side setbacks.
Exactly. You can't change the building.
Yeah,
You can't
you know,
tear it
before
down.
we had zoning in 1972, they were all pre-existing, non-conforming.
Right. My only point is that the threat of the building torn down is not possible.
If it burned down, though, I believe it could be reconstructed. If it
The
burned
same
down.
building, yeah, probably.
They have overly lot.
Those walls are like 2 feet of brick.
Extend.
We're out of order.
We're not in the living room. All right, so I think we have a plan. We'll,
So I'll be up there at 3.
so we'll, motion to, continue the hearing. Motion to continue the hearing.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to continue this hearing until.
Excuse me, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but before we actually make the motion, we don't have a date and time set yet, so I don't know what we would continue it to. So either we leave it open and I have to re-advertise in the paper and do all that, or we can select a date and time now and then we can continue it to that. So there's 2 options. I prefer to set a date
Set
tonight,
date
but-
time, that's fine. That's good. That's where I was getting to it.
Oh,
I thought
okay.
we had a motion, please continue. So, all right. So date and time, anyone have any? Bad times, like, you have a calendar there?
Well, there's the calendar
Oh,
there,
calendar,
I
yeah.
don't have one on me. Let's see here. We're in October. Do Mondays work best for the board?
We're into November at this point. I
No,
think.
2 weeks from tonight's the 30th.
Yeah.
Is that?
It has to be 2 weeks, though.
No, it could be whatever you want to be. It could be next Monday.
I can do next one.
Yeah, I'm out of town next week.
Next Monday?
I'm out of town next
Oh,
week.
you're out of next week. All of next week?
Yeah, all next week. Well, I'm back on Friday, but.
So, is the 30th available?
Either Monday.
30th?
30th.
30th.
30th?
Okay, and at 7 p.m. here?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Maybe just throw something out here before we do that. Isn't the 30th Halloween?
No,
31st. Okay. I don't want to go through that disaster.
Don't want you outside again.
Okay.
Did you ever go trick or treating?
Not in Bolton.
Oh, no. Well, now that it isn't the case.
I was just to go to Hudson, there's more candy there.
All right, so
We're good now.
now we can.
Okay, make a motion to continue the hearing until October 30th at 7 PM. At
Second.
this building, I guess, I don't know.
Or whatever it is. So Kay seconded that, so all in favor of continuing? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And then Stan, do you plan on having representation here?
Gotta figure that out, yeah. I'll send you a.
Yeah. I'm the wrong one. I can't.
No, she doesn't go on that. Because we have to see it. Otherwise, you gotta.
So you get the right stuff.
Everything been good? You also do these days. Yeah. So ready for season.
I was asking my son, I said, how the heck do I refill my packs? That's my juice, I always get packs of my juice.
Did they change from what
Yeah. So you don't go in the groups anymore?
You still got a group account, yes, because you have GPS, because it's after the days when you pass. So you gotta find yourself.
No, I got
So you still do the group, you do the GPS.
November 11th is when I know. There was one little bump in the press, but yeah.
That was an hour.
And then you do the group, and then you just pass the last year, you rebuild
And you know, for all the years we were they were just ski program.
Once they make the rest, they just need this many sites in order for us to work. At the same time, as when they sit upstairs, they can work.
Where are
So I did that like twice, I was like, nobody. It's just not as cold.
Are we still starting having meetings time? Still in meetings?
Yeah,
My son wanted to know whether to stop with those.
Oh, no, this is one.
you know,
Sorry.
it's beautiful.
We cannot even drive away from Main Street. That's a traffic sign. And second of all, the well right there by the tree.
We have people to exit so that.
Okay, they gotta go.
Because we were gonna.
Thank you so much.
To see you. Oh,
Yeah, that's a fun place, but I actually have.
On spot days?
That's what
No, I'm trying to write it.
I know what it is. Obviously, right, well.
Just to make sure of that.
And the heat shields are gone, you have.
Well, they have-
No.
The trouble with it is you forget stuff.
Yeah, right, yeah. But if in the area, then.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I will. All right.
With the,
Still going on, right?
yeah, wasn't this supposed to be like the group couples want to go to like the hearing? It hasn't happened yet? Okay. I didn't know.
No, I'm more interested in that.
Okay.
That's why I want to
So, but that means they're still operating.
They have been one time.
It's our decision.
I think the problem is they can't sell it in its current.
Yeah, I don't think that's a reason to grant a special permit. Somebody gets trouble.
They can certainly farm, I mean, they're still there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a very limited retail, whatever.
I drive by Rivers Island, I see some
easy
people,
property to do
never
something.
more than like two.
Mine on that?
I see them out there.
Which one's you in?
That's about it.
I'm left in the blue.
Oh, yeah, there. Andy?
That's
For a while. I feel like it was one from.
Can we slip through the crack? That's most of them. And so did we have one other item?
It was just the review of the updated ZBA application.
So all it is including
Just
the,
adding a floor before if they're going for a variance, but they specifically call out how they're doing it right now.
Who thought of that?
so we used to actually, we just had a copy similar to this, not codification, but we just have it in front of us. I used that because I always wanted to see from that.
Yeah, it just makes, I think, much more sense to give it to the applicant so they know what they're.
Well, that's just it. They should come in, like you said, they should be coming in and say, this is why I'm entitled to variance.
Well, the only way they should show up is they can check off yes on every
That's
single one.
absolutely right.
So why go through the whole thing, the filing fees and everything, and the heartache?
So do we have to vote to accept it?
No, it was just to show it to you to know that
That's all it
it's
takes.
Thank you for doing that.
Put your house anywhere you want.
So I think it's good guidance, I think it's.
Yeah, I think so, too.
And it's factual, it's right from the master of the law, so it's just, this is what people say, you know.
Somebody should do an app. You just say, turn it off, and then, like, thanks for playing, but, you know, don't
Most applicants, when
waste
they
your
have the
time.
attorneys involved,
Yeah,
like,
like
you know,
noises.
they actually walk through it.
Yeah.
It's there, so, but the mom and pop, you know, come in.
Well, this is the attorney, well, the problem with the attorneys is they'll fabricate a reason as to why they meet the zoning. But a homeowner would really think about it and say, well, geez, maybe I can't really do this.
But at least they've structured it such that they know the hurdles because they're familiar with master and the law. Most people, they may not, they say, yeah, I want to get a variance, but they don't really read through the master law. So this is good.
Yeah, definitely.
Included.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so I say, motion to close now here.
Seconded?
Second?
Yep.
Brad, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed to 8:47. 30 seconds.
Give them a nice.